All right, so we're going to start with cloning earthaccess. And I'm just gonna do it. Let me know if there's any questions. Okay, so within earthaccess, I don't know how to use poetry personally, so I'm not going to talk about poetry right now. But I do know how to use conda. So what I use is conda. And there's a directory here that has an environment YAML file in it, but I forget where it is. It's dev environment, I think. Or environment dev. Yeah, there it is. So it's in the binder directory. And this environment has all the things that you need to run earthaccess. And recently I added in all the stuff that you need to build the docs to. So if you're familiar with poetry, you just use poetry for this step. But I'm going to do, hold on, what was the name of the environment? Earthaccess dev. And I think when I do this, it's going to prompt me to delete the no, it didn't prompt me, so I have to remove it. Okay, so that got rid of the package or the environment. This should work the second time. And it's actually going to take a while if I use conda, so I'm going to cancel it and use mumble. Okay, I'm just going to open up another terminal while that's happening. Make it bigger.
Also, if you don't have Mamba or Conda, you can do this with Python virtual env, but that's kind of old. Well, then.
Would you use pip to create it?
Yeah, you can use pip to create it. Well, if you have a virtual environment with Python virtual environment, I think this approach is better. So.
Okay. The one thing I was confused about, and this is just from my ignorance of not using poetry, is the dependencies for the docs stuff is here under poetry dev dependencies. Do you have to run any special command to get those?
No, it will install it. It will install everything. If you're using poetry, it will install the dev dependencies too.
Okay, cool, yeah. Okay, so then the docs are here in this docs directory. And if I remember correctly, there's also a script that we can use. So here's where I'll be if I want to edit the docs. So I'm going to go out a level, and in the scripts directory, there's a script here called build docs, and then there's another one called docs live. And docs live is the one that I normally use for development. And let me just go check. Yeah, the environment's ready, so I'm going to create it or activate it. And it's earthaccess dev, right? Yeah. Okay, so then I'm just going to run this script.
Do you need to build
live.
Don't you have to pip install first, or?
I think you're right. Good call. So yeah, I think the problem now is earthaccess itself isn't installed. So it's really important for, if you're doing this the conda way, to make sure that you have the environment activated first. Otherwise, it's going to install pip as like a global package or something, or it's going to install earthaccess as a global package or something. So pip install editable dot for the current directory. It's going to look in that directory, find the pipeproject.toml, find all the dependencies, fetch them with pip. Okay, so now if I do earthaccess, well, there's no command, is there? Or is there an entry point? I forget. I don't think there is an entry point.
Not yet.
So that's cool. Yeah. Okay, that's the future thing. So now I have the environment activated. I've got the earthaccess development install. And a development install, if you're not familiar, it installs your package as a symlink to the source code. So if I change anything in this source code, the installed package is going to update. But I don't think that's super important for the docs if you're just purely touching docs. Yeah, so then the script.
Now just run the script, yeah.
Not linked. Docs live. Yeah, I keep thinking it's the other way around, live docs. Okay, so this is going to take a minute because there's a lot of stuff that needs to actually be executed. But then up here, it's just a deprecation warning. So you can ignore that.
And also, we don't need to execute it the first time if we don't want to. Like right now, it's doing, the rendering of all the notebooks, and that brings some data. So you can change that in the earthaccess uses mkdocs for the documentation. So there is a configuration file in the repository called mkdocs, and you can think of mkdocs the same way of Quarto YAML. So it is like telling what sections and where the section name is and what are the documents, either Quarto Markdown or an IPython notebook.
Yeah, I haven't explored this too much yet. I'm pretty new to mkdocs. I use Quarto a lot more. But something that I was looking at before is there's some configuration down here for plugins too. So if you have questions about like how are doc strings handled, you can see the config here. We specify the default handler, and then we specify the doc string style down here as Google. So that helped us answer a question last week about what the correct doc string style was. And it looks like down here is the nav like hierarchy of pages. I'm just learning about this now. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I don't know if there's a ton of extra important stuff here to really worry about, but yeah, it does really remind me of Quarto YAML. Like these are all the same as the Quarto.
Yeah, it is very, very similar. And the documentation needs a lot of work, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, so here, this is the actual script we're running. docslive.sh is just running mkdocs serve. It's showing you here what port you can access it on. So if I go, well, let's first check if it's ready. I think it's still converting a notebook. So I should be able to, though, when it's ready, go to localhost. It was 8080 or was it 8008? 8008. Still going. It's doing the file access tutorial. I think there's a few tutorials left after this, so this may take a few minutes. Do we want to talk about something else while we're waiting for this? Or do you have any ideas of something else I could show Luis?
I think that's it. Like once you are here, you can start working on your favorite editor and change stuff like in the notebook or the code, and you should see it reflected and in the documentation right away.
Yeah.
And
so suppose, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's all. The last argument means that it will only try to reload the documentation or code that you change. So it won't try to rebuild the whole thing, because then it will take another half an hour to see your change.
And that's this dirty reload argument?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Okay, so here I'm making a change, but we're still waiting for the notebooks to finish executing. First run is always going to be the slow one. But once that's done, I should be able to simply watch the logs over here in this terminal, make a change here in this terminal. As soon as I save this, then over in this terminal, you'll see a new line entry saying something like, what was it? Resources.md changed, reloading. And then you can go over to your browser and you'd see the change immediately there. Do you need to refresh, like Control R or press this button, Luis, or does it? Oh, no, there it is. Cool.
It's automatic. It has a hook to update the browser.
Okay, so let's watch that happen then. I never actually saved this, I guess. So save it. Reloading browser.
Yep,
is this the...
it's ready.
Oh, there it goes. Yep. And there, I didn't have to reload this page. It just says something new there. And yeah, same thing applies to any page you're wanting to edit. You can reference that mkdocs.yaml file. Again, the nav section here kind of shows how this corresponds with the files that are in the repository. So if you want to see this file authenticate with Earth Data Login, you could go over here, nav, and that's underneath how to. So we go down to how to authenticate with Earth Data Login. And then the file is how-to/authenticate. So then we can just open new how-to docs how-to authenticate. And that's the file if I want to change that one.
And this is not an executable, so you can change it and it'll be really fast.
Yeah, so let's do that. Something new. Okay, there it is reloading, and then I can click the page, and there's something new.
Yep.
Should I show the Git part of the, finalizing this, pushing it, or is that something?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll create a branch and push to the branch. I'm just doing git status first to see what would be pushed. I just cloned, so I'm probably up to date. I'm creating a new branch. Just call it test. Add everything. Commit it. Add some example changes to demo docs workflow. Save and quit. And then I have an alias for pushing. That's the same thing as push-u origin test.
And now what will happen in the repository with the action? It will try to run the, right?
Yep, let's go there. Okay, so over here in actions, we can see here's the commit message I just wrote, add some example changes to demo the docs workflow. It already completed linten format with rough, and it's still running unit tests, and it's still running test minimum dependencies. And you can see here, this column shows the branch name that I gave it, which was test, and we can click there and jump over to the branch too.